There you go.
Green.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, so much happens in these lessons. I really have to go back and watch them a couple of
Yeah.
times because it's like, what did he say about that now?
Yeah. That's why I like to record, because then we can cover a lot of stuff, and I don't have to worry about overwhelming you, because you could just go back and watch again.
Digest it again later.
Yep. Got a new toy this weekend, or
Oh,
actually
nice.
got it Monday.
Huh.
Signed by Shane Van Boning. It's the Q-Tex SVB edition of their Synergy.
So it's actually signed by him, or is it like printed into it, or he's
both? You see, that's the printing that comes with it, but he actually signed it.
Huh. That guy's quite the pool player.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Better than I'll ever be. Probably better than
now I can be just as good as him because I have his cue stick.
So is that like a jump brake cool? It looks like it unscrews a bunch of places.
Nope. No. This is just a standard 2-piece cue.
Huh.
This actually is Lucasi that I won in a drawing recently. This is a jump brake cue.
Got a little weight to it.
A little bit.
And it comes apart 2 places then?
Yeah, so the regular joint here, and then also right there. So it has its own little grip for the jump, which is kind of nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I haven't used it very much, but I have tried it out. It's a pretty decent jump stick. My favorite jump, though, it's actually in my case. It's the Q-Tech. What is it called again? What's the Q-Tech jump cue again? Surge. No. It's, jump. Propel. That's it. What are we talking about today? I know I read your email.
Right. I don't know.
So
don't know how you can respond to that other than that. Well, that's interesting.
We can try some things. I'm actually thinking about sending a message to Dr. Dave and see if he'll respond. I've corresponded with him a couple times through Facebook, so I'd like to get his take on it if he'll.
I'd love to.
But yeah.
I tried taking I have a set of computer glasses, Focus About there. I actually tried that today. Strapped them on really tight. Boy, I had a raging headache in about 15 minutes, so that didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at his Dr. Dave's glasses. They're relatively narrow and they got no line on top. And I don't know, I told you he has a video on glasses. And it was pretty interesting what I had to say about that. Oh, is this coming apart? It certainly is. I'm going to have to replace that pretty soon. He says get ones that don't have a rim. Don't use progressives because they'll really confuse you. And, you know, some people actually have pool glasses. They got like a big piece up there, so you're looking down through them.
Right.
Of course, he said, I'm not.
Well, when you're down like this.
Yeah.
And you're looking up.
Yeah, they're up.
You're still looking through your glasses. Yeah.
So, I don't know about that. That's a pretty expensive investment. It'd be $600-700, I would guess, to have a pair like that made.
Probably, yeah. If you played enough, you played in a league or, yeah. Okay.
Really? So I don't know about that.
I mean, I would experiment with different things and see what works for you. My suggestion would be to try to get in line, right? So when you're getting down on your shot, you're using your right eye, correct?
Yeah. When I
for a longer distance,
it's the right eye.
Okay. So when you're lining up for a shot, and you're back here, right? What have I told you? Get back here, get the line of the shot, and then drop down onto that line, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So you should be focused a lot on, you don't really have to focus on the cue ball too much. What you're really focused on is the target through the cue ball, which is wherever you're aiming for this ball. For this one, it's right at the center of the ball because it's a straight in shot, right? So I'm focused on that. I'm focused on dropping this line down on that. I'm not even looking at the cue ball right now. I'm looking at my line of aim. Now, if I look at the cue ball, for me, I don't have the problem that you do. So to me, everything looks great. For you, when you look down at the cue ball, you're probably, your left eye is the one taking over on that.
Exactly. I'm watching.
And
my
when
left
it
eye.
does, of course, that shifts your vision center, right?
Mhm.
Because now this one's the dominant one. And that is going to throw off what it looks like you're aiming.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think what you need to do is you need to train yourself to trust that your right eye did its job.
Mhm.
Your left eye, when it takes over and you're looking at the cue ball and it doesn't look right, trust that it's fine. Look back at the object ball and you'll see, then your right eye will take over and you'll say, oh, okay, I'm lined up. And when you shoot, try to learn how to focus on the object ball where you're shooting to, rather than focusing on the cue ball when you're striking it. The only thing you should really need to look at the cue ball is to make sure that you're hitting the cue ball in the right spot. Center, left, right, draw, follow, whatever you're trying to do. Make sure you're hitting it in the right spot, but then focus back on your target. Okay, you shouldn't have to look at the cue ball. Now, you'll see that most pros kind of go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then they shoot.
Mm-hmm.
For you, I think you need to develop a technique where you're focused mainly on the object.
Well, I watched a whole, once again, Dr. Dave video on this,
Mhm.
and he's like, line it up, get everything set up. Look at the cue ball when you're doing your practice strokes, and then look at the object ball when you actually hit it. So you're not looking at the cue ball.
Right.
And what I have to learn, I think, to do is to shift the dominance back to the right eye. And I lined this shot up and shot this for about half an hour again today with video camera and stuff. It's funny. If you set up the camera and go back and look at it, I can see myself going, wrong way. And then, of course, it doesn't go in where it's supposed to. And then I can also see myself when I get it shifted back the right way. It's amazing. You put a camera right in line, you can actually see exactly what you're doing wrong.
Right.
Not that I can see it while I'm doing it so much.
Well, you have to associate the two, right? Your brain, we've talked a lot about practicing, and then that practice kind of goes into your brain, and then it goes into your subconscious, and then your subconscious takes over. That's kind of what you're having to do. You're having to teach your subconscious brain that you are aimed correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I think what's probably going to happen is you're suddenly everything's just going to lock in, right? Like you're like, okay, if I'm looking distance, I'm looking this way, right? And then when I'm looking at my cue ball, I'm suddenly over here, and it's like, but I've learned that this is the important one, because this is the one where I'm focused on the aim right through my target point. So I'm going to trust that. I'm going to ignore this part, right? I'm not going to worry about this part. I think what eventually you're going to get is that these two are going to suddenly lock together, and then it's going to look right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things I wondered about is, when I'm coming down on the shot, so let me get my feet in the right place. So I see that shot right there. So I look at the cue ball. The cue ball, it doesn't look right. I need to do that. That's, of course, what gets me off, because that's the right shot.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder at some point I'm just going to learn, when that looks like the right thing, that I actually need to cheat to this side a little bit.
No, I don't do that.
But I don't think that's the right thing to do.
No, it's not. It's not, because how much do you cheat? And that's gonna change.
Yep.
Depending on how far away the shot is.
So anyway, yeah, I absolutely makes sense. You just line the shot up with my right eye. I can watch the cue ball, make sure I'm set up right, but then it's back to shift to this and make sure I'm looking at the right thing. It should go in.
Yep.
So the other thing I've spent a bunch of time with my video is trying to get my stroke smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Smooth, back, slow, and then however fast it needs to go according to how hard I'm shooting it. I keep seeing that I have just the tiniest bit of elbow drop, and I'm trying to figure out how to get that to go away.
Okay.
I think it's not dropping there. But anytime I try to hit it actually straight so it doesn't drop down at the end of the shot, then my elbow's dropping.
Don't do that.
Yes, don't do that.
I've told you before.
Yep.
You want the tip to hit the cloth.
Mhm.
See all these little scrapes?
Yep.
That's because during the break, my tip hits the cloth. It's supposed to hit the cloth. Watch. I'm just gonna do a regular shot on this ball. And I want you to just watch my cue and watch the tip.
Yes, it's almost or on cloth pretty much every time.
Yeah. It won't necessarily hit the cloth every time. But if I do a harder shot, it will touch
hit
the
it for
cloth.
sure.
Don't worry about that is what I'm saying. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, that's okay. It's supposed to, if you do an absolute proper stroke, see, I'm only moving my lower arm. I'm not moving my upper arm, right?
Yep.
And if I stroke all the way through.
So that's
See?
one of the interesting feelings that I think I have found is that when the stroke is exactly as it should be, I feel my bicep, my forearm hitting my bicep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when that happens, then I'm doing the right thing.
Right. 'Cause when you follow through, there's one of two things that you could do. One of them is to come up as far as possible without moving your upper arm.
Mm-hmm.
The other is to move your entire arm down. When you do that, your arm opens up. It's not touching your, you're not all the way bent.
And that leads to
The
significant
aim,
miscuing.
yes, the aim is to be bent. My suggestion would be, if you want to watch some really good videos on smooth stroke, do a search for Chris Melling.
Chris Miller.
Melling.
Yes,
he's a British player. He is absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've ever seen the one where he ran the table and made 3 absolutely incredible shots. Have you ever seen that? Oh my God. I'll send you a video of it. It's incredible. His first shot. So he's playing I forget what they call it, English pool basically. And he's got something like this as his first shot. He has nothing else to shoot at after the break.
Mm-hmm.
In English pool, you take what you make, and he made a stripe. Or it might have been a solid, but anyway, in this case, he has to shoot the stripe.
Okay.
So he actually does this shot. Let's see if I can do it, but I probably won't. 15 ball right here. Well, they don't have to call the shot. So he shot that, went up there, came down this way. This one hit this ball, ended up like this. Then the cue ball came and made that shot. Next shot, he has nothing. Actually, I think it was solids he was on. His next ball that he can shoot is here. It's the one he decides to shoot at. His cue ball is like right about here. He made this ball. There's balls in the way. He has nothing else to shoot at. So he decides to do a massé shot. Are you familiar with the massé shot?
Yeah, you pop it up and over. I mean,
No. That's a jump shot.
Oh, this is the
massé shot is a
extreme
curve.
spin.
Is a curve shot. So there's a bunch of balls. I will try this one as well. This is not an easy shot. Of course, he did this all in one game. So he didn't get do-overs. But this was the second shot. It comes up here like this. Oh boy.
I'm not sure you even understand how this works.
I'll show you in a
It's
second.
coming down and spinning it, and that's
Yes.
what gives it the curve.
Yes. Basically. Like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course he makes it.
Of course, he makes it right, but still,
Then
closer to it than I ever would have.
he makes a couple other shots, and he has 2 shots left. One ball to make, and then the 8-ball. 8-ball is right here. His next second to last ball is like right here. The cue ball ends up right here. And he's got balls all over the table. Something like that. He can't make this ball in that corner, right?
Right.
So he calls that corner pocket.
And everybody's looking at him going, how's that going to happen?
Let's see if I can do this. That'd be a miracle. Yeah. So basically, he shoots it like that. It comes around, hits here, misses 2 balls, like that close, goes right by the 8-ball, makes it in. And
Leaving the cue right there.
Leaving the cue ball right here, and then makes the 8-ball. That's his run out. But what I want you to watch him for is his stroke.
Mm-hmm.
It is so smooth. This is how he shoots. He figures out his shot. Let's say he wants to go down to the end rail to shoot the 15 next. Comes down on it, comes down very nice and smooth. Then he pulls back and then delivers. That's how he shoots. If you learn to do a nice slow, maybe even a stop before you deliver, and you do a smooth acceleration on your delivery, you will probably, number one, not drop your elbow, and number two, not do your little tweak to the side. I think that'll really help you out.
Well, that's the stuff I want to learn, is get the fundamentals down.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing okay strategy-wise. I go, okay, that one to that one to that one, then I missed the first one. It's like, well, crap.
Let's try a few shots. I just want you to shoot down to that corner. And for now, I want you to focus on 2 things. It's going to be a nice, easy, straight-in shot. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So what I want you to focus on, number 1, do not drop your elbow.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the lower arm, just that arc, right? That circle that it makes, and come up to your chest, come up to your arm till you can't come up any farther. The tip is going to touch the table. It's okay. Okay. Center ball hit.
Maybe I should get in the habit of hitting my chest every time.
And the other thing I want you to do is I want you to do a smooth stroke. So Charlie told you, don't do the jerky. If you jerk back here and then try to accelerate very quickly, right? You're not going to have control over the speed, and you're also going to have a little bit of lateral movement.
Mm-hmm. Felt fairly smooth.
It wasn't bad. Could be smoother.
Okay.
But it was very good. And I want you to also, when you're ready to shoot, I want you to take a breath. Okay, take a breath kind of as you're pulling it back. It's good, smooth follow through, but did you feel your elbow dropping on that? You dropped your elbow on that shot. So
I bet I did.
So now I want you to focus on keeping that elbow up and just coming up to your chest. Don't worry about the shot itself. I want you to focus on the stroke. So how do you feel that you did on that one?
That one felt right because it came in. Question is, how much did I really move? No, it came down. So I'm not feeling that, I think.
It is okay if it comes down a little bit because it's kind of natural, and that's happening after you're stroking through the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So the drop at the end is not really affecting your stroke, but I want you to just be used to keeping it up and not dropping it. If it drops at the end a little bit, it's okay. But we're trying to really focus on keeping the elbow up and just coming up to your chest. Remember, come up to your chest.
I think that was better. Once again, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. When you're setting up that video, you're watching yourself. Also, set one off to the side, just focused on your
Well, that's
arm.
what I'm doing, putting one what there.
Yeah.
I've been practicing that drill where you put two balls on the thing and then you take one of these and try to make it not wobble, get down, come back, hit my cue.
Right.
I could do that pretty consistently sometimes. I didn't hit the shot right.
Focus on keeping that elbow up. That was good. Let's do a little bit sharper delivery. It's good. Your elbow actually stayed up really. A lot of people have trouble keeping their elbow up on harder shots, but you kept yours up nicely. Now, get up a second. Remember that when you are trying to figure out the aim and everything, okay, I see that you're down there and you're doing your thing where you're trying to figure out, the dominant eye and all that stuff. That's fine, but when you're ready to actually shoot, get back up and then get back down on the shot.
Probably a little too sharp. That would have gone in if I hadn't hit it quite so hard.
Like I said, we're not too worried about whether or not you make it. I'm just worried about the stroke mechanics.
I felt that come up. I think that was right.
Your elbow dropped a little bit, but you're not having nearly as much elbow drop as you usually do, since we're focused on that. Let's try not to miss that much.
Thank you.
So one other thing I'd like to address. Show me your grip. Like when you're down on the shot.
Oh,
Show me your grip on the cue. Okay. I want you to notice, you got a big air gap there, right here.
Should I have that down more like that? Oh, I always thought you're supposed to be rotating like that with your fingers. No, like that.
When I shoot, I actually the pressure is actually these fingers most of the time. Okay. You still have a pivot point there, right? You don't want it to be solid.
Not as much of a pivot though.
Right.
Okay.
But either these two are fine, and then the other one's just kind of resting lightly. So you can still do this, right? Because that's what's going to happen during the stroke, right? It's going to bend.
And you have those clearly wrapped all the way around, right? Okay. Actually, long finger feels more natural. That's awkward. My thumb is in the way.
Okay. Yeah. Do whatever works. The reason for this is this isn't necessarily a problem, but you don't have a lot of grip on the cue this way, right? And if you don't have a grip on the cue, what happens when you actually need to make a harder shot? You're naturally going to grip it, but you're going to do that in the middle of your stroke. And what are you going to do?
Oh, that's going to wiggle it.
You could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to. That stick isn't necessarily going to stay straight, right? Which could account for a lot of your. So we want a good solid. So you'll notice I've got these fingers here. Because I'm not changing my grip, going from this to this through the stroke. There's just fewer variables.
You can just bring more fingers down as opposed to.
Well, not even that. Just the grip that you have, just a medium grip. It doesn't have to be super hard. Is enough to hold it to deliver a really good solid stroke.
Okay.
And when you're delivering a stroke, you're not doing the really jerky acceleration. Okay. I want you to watch my acceleration. I'm gonna bank this ball. The corner pocket. I want you to watch the acceleration because I'm going to do this one hard. You notice I hit that fairly hard, right? Probably the hardest I really need to on this table anyway. The key is the smooth acceleration, okay? You can get a really good solid hit without looking like you're putting a lot of power into it. There's no jerkiness, there's no grip, there's no, I'm not I'm not trying to do a jump or anything like that. It's not the thing that delivers the power is not the muscles and the strength, it's the acceleration, right?
Well, it's going to take some getting used to holding this differently.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Yes.
It's why I'm here.
Exactly.
That seems more solid to me somehow. Probably not surprisingly.
Be careful. One of the things that happens when you drop your elbow, the other good thing about not dropping your elbow is that when you finish your stroke, You see, I'm only about 4 inches or 4 or 5 inches past, right? If you drop your elbow,
Yeah, you can go a lot further.
you go a lot further, and you can end up double hitting the cue ball, which is, I think, is what you did on that last one.
Okay.
And remember what I said, don't be too hasty. Slow down, breathe, pull back. There, that was really nice. And I want you to stroke this one medium, but I want you to use the same technique. Slow delivery, but just a softer, like a medium stroke. How's that feel?
Better.
Feels smooth, right? Chalk up. Now I want you to do exactly what we've been doing. Smooth stroke, don't drop your elbow. I want you to hit this one low, okay? I want you to, but it's going to be a draw shot. I want you to hit this cue stick or the cue ball really low. Just same thing though. Everything else the same. Follow through, smooth. Nice. There's a little bit jerky.
Jerky on the back or jerky on the front?
Well, basically through the back and then forward. Remember, a little slower, a little more controlled delivery.
Was that more controlled or just still jerky? It seemed jerky to me. I mean,
That one was a little
smooth.
bit. It was a little bit. I mean, you'll know it. You'll know it when you feel it. You feel it.
No, dropped a little bit on that.
I'll try something here. A little bit farther away.
Okay.
Now I want you to remember to do all of your aiming while you're standing up back here. And I want you to drop into that line and then hold that line.
I want that further. Is that about right? Well, there's a lot of things to remember all at once.
Mm-hmm. All right. Can you get up again? one of the things that you're doing, you're kind of reverting back to something you've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When you're coming up on your shot, your cue is out like this, and you're kind of twisting it in. What
As
I want
opposed to dropping it in.
Right. What I want you to do is I want you to be like on that line. The cue is on the line. Your body kind of has to get around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just approaching it straight like this, now your body's in the line, your cue's here, and you're kind of dropping away from your shot. You see that?
Uh-huh.
Go stand over there and look at what I'm showing you. So it's obviously my eyes are the center of my vision, right? So my body's in the line of the aim while I'm back here looking at it. What you'll see a lot of pros do is they'll kind of like look this way, right? And then they'll approach it like this, right? Because they're getting their body out of the way, because the cue stick has to be in the line. My body can't be in the way of the cue. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, this is fine, right? But be prepared to kind of keep your head in line and kind of get your body out of the way. Put the cue on that line, and then just drop
the
it
shot.
down. It takes a little bit of getting used to. So just think of it in terms of the cue and your arm and your head are the actual line of the shot. The rest of your body needs to be out of the way. Try that again. I want to see it. Yes. Very nice. Okay.
So partly this is, imagine that, put my right foot in that line
Mm-hmm.
and then bring this down.
Yep. If you put your right foot there and then you spread your legs, what happens to your body? Your body's no longer in the line of your right foot, right?
No, can't be.
So that's essentially what you're doing. Put your right foot there, step off to the side, keeping the cue and your head over the line, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're like this. See that? My
Mm-hmm.
cue comes straight down on the line, and my body gets out of the way. Looking at it here, I'm dropping right down on it. Now, another thing I'm observing is there have been a couple of times where you've adjusted your bridge. Where you come down like this, and then you move your hand forward or back, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem with that. The only problem is that when you come down, you should be in the actual best position. If your hand if you feel like you're a little too close to it, you want to move back, that's fine. Just reset everything. Right.
Pick it up and put it back down.
Yeah. If you want to get a little closer, get a little closer. Get your whole body closer. Remember that this should always be the same. The grip to your body, to your bridge,
Mm-hmm.
always going to be the same. You're going to have that little bent elbow, right? So it doesn't matter if you're back here doing a long shot. It's going to look exactly the same as being up close. It's just your cue is just going to be in a different spot,
And you got
right?
your hand wiggling up and down the grip.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's my two different cue balls, right? This is a short shot. This is a long shot. See? My body hasn't changed. The only thing different is my cue has changed position, right? If I want to do a shorter shot, just pull it back. I'm still in the same position. Everything is lined up the same way because your body doesn't change size. You're not doing this, right? And you're not doing this.
One hopes.
You're doing exactly the same thing every single time. It's just how far from this to the tip is exposed, right?
And then you shift this. I mean, if you're like here, you're shifted here. If you're going to be there, because you want kind of that
Yeah.
same relationship between where your arms are.
I can actually demonstrate this for you. This is a long bridge. Now I want you to get behind me. I want you to grab my cue and just pull it backwards. Now it's a short stroke. See?
Uh-huh.
I haven't moved anything. I just moved the grip up higher on the stick. I moved the stick back, right? Which changes my grip where I'm gripping. But my back arm didn't move, right? Make sense?
Yeah, exactly. I've been kind of tending to put my grip in the same place every time, which is clearly not the right answer.
I would, if I were you, use the same bridge about 80% of the time. Right? Most of the time, you're just going to come down here. You're going to have about an 8-inch bridge. You know, you're going to be the same spot on the cue every single time. I know, for example, I've been playing around with this one, trying to figure out where my pivot point is. We've talked about that before, but essentially where I want to be.
Run that pivot point business again, because I've read about it and then I've confused myself.
I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But basically, where I'm comfortable with my pivot point on this thing, I know my grip is going to be right here. So what I do is I grip it here. Then I get down on my shot, knowing where I'm comfortable here, and you can see how long the stroke or the how far away my bridge is, right? So I know that I'm right there because I'm gripped right here, and I've been practicing this. Because I know this, I know that no matter how I shoot this, it's going to go in that pocket, even though I put a lot of spin on it, right? It's still going to shoot straight. That's what the pivot point was about. So I know, in this case, yes, I'm going to grip it first. Then I'm going to use that as my gauge to figure out how far away from the ball to be. Because everything else on my body, when I get up here, when I get down, this is my natural position, right? A little bit of a bent elbow, back arm straight up and down, right? So in this particular case, when I'm gripping here at the end of the stick with this joint, that's the length of bridge I want. So I know how to position myself behind the cue. Obviously, I'm not going to be like this, and obviously I'm not going to be back here, right? I'm going to get right into the position. It's going to give me that best bridge length.
And generally, I don't want anything like that bridge length at this point, I would think.
No.
Because I think the further out it is, the harder it is to control.
Yes and no. Believe it or not, if we were able to figure out your pivot point, you'd have less of a problem with your aim. But I can work with you on that in a bit. But I just want to make sure that you understand that in this particular case, you're probably going to be about halfway up on the grip. So try that. Don't move that. Get down on your shot and figure out where you're comfortable and your tip is up against the ball and your back arm is straight up and down.
Which yours is not right now.
It's not?
No, it's just slightly forward of vertical.
How about that? Right there. How's that?
Slightly forward, about
Okay.
4 or 5 degrees.
Okay.
That's
That's
what
where
works for you.
That's where it works for me then. Yeah. Which is fine, but when we're learning the basics, we try to be straight
to
up.
be exactly perfect as much as I possibly.
But I'm not, if I saw that yours was like mine, I wouldn't correct that.
All right. So if I start here,
Just try it. Start there. Now, I want you to observe something. At this point, you're in a comfortable spot, right? Notice how far away the tip is. So, get up a little bit. Take a couple of little tiny steps forward until that tip is right on the ball with this with this being straight up and down.
Now, that looks straight up and down to me.
Okay, that's your comfortable position. Now you can spread your feet a little bit. You can get down a little bit better on your shot. So what I'm going to propose is that since that's the bridge length that you're comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
that is where your grip is going to be 80% of the time.
And that is vertical, right?
Go ahead and get down. Right up against the ball. You're slightly forward, just like me.
So maybe there.
How does it feel to you? Does it feel right?
Let me get down on it and see how it naturally wants to be. Yeah, I kind of want to be right about there. And still, it looks like a little further back yet.
Well, your bridge length is a little longer than. So if that's a comfortable, is this a comfortable bridge length for you? What's the most comfortable for you?
That seems like where I want to come down. I don't know, do
So-
you think that's too far out? Should I?
No, whatever you
A
feel
little closer?
most comfortable with. Longer bridge lengths do kind of equate to a little bit more precision needed. So that right there is probably where your grip should be, which is a little bit behind center.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. So that's where your grip is going to be 80% of the time. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to get up and pretend that you're going to do a really soft shot with a really short bridge. So go ahead and get down on that with a really short bridge. Now, you'll notice that your backhand needs to scoot up a little bit.
Yep.
Right?
And
So
for a
that's
soft shot. I should always have a shorter bridge as opposed to being back here and just hitting it softly.
the shorter bridge is going to encourage you to not hit it hard, to remind you that it's a soft, very short stroke. However, there's nothing wrong with gripping like right where I usually do. Right? It's all about the stroke, right? So I'm used to doing that, so I don't really need to shorten up my bridge. I will sometimes. So I would come way up like this, and then I'd be like this. Here's the thing though. What I want you to do is I want you to hold your cue like this. Okay? Thumbs on either thumb. There you go. I want you to slowly clap your hands together. Very slow. Let the weight of the cue do its thing.
One
Slowly,
sliding and one
slowly,
isn't.
slowly. Till your hands are together.
Ooh.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the center of balance on your cue right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 2 inches above the wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The closer you are to that center of balance, the more the tip, or the easier it is for the tip to come up.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm back farther here, see that? And if I'm back here,
Mm-hmm.
right, the tip doesn't want to come up as much because more of the weight of the cue is in front of my fulcrum.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm holding it here, it's really hard to control. So if I do a really short bridge, I'm closer to that center. See that?
Uh-huh.
And it's very light in my hands right here, which is okay because I'm doing a soft shot. But that's just something to keep in mind. It makes the cue feel different in your hands. So if you constantly use the same grip, the same bridge length, especially if you get used to a longer bridge length, then you can do soft shots, medium shots, hard shots,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Without readjusting.
Without having to readjust, right? So I'm looking at this shot. thinking, okay, I think I want, maybe I have a ball here and I want to be in position for that. So I know how hard I need to hit it. But then maybe I decide, you know what? I want to come down here. I want to be on this shot next. And then I'll take care of that one afterwards. So now I know I need to shoot it a little harder. So at first I'm thinking medium shot, right? And then I kind of readjust, look at this. My bridge length hasn't changed, but now my stroke is a little longer.
You made that too easy for yourself.
So, I mean, the point being that I would get used to a certain bridge length, use that for 95% of your shots. Just change the stroke length for how hard you want to hit it. But until then, until you're comfortable with that, use a shorter bridge length to encourage you not to hit it too hard. I want to shoot this without scratching, but I need to shoot at a ball down there. Right. Then I'm going to scoot up a little bit like this, so I know I'm going to hit it softly. Because it's just forcing my brain to remember, shoot it soft.
Well, one of the drills that I've been doing myself frequently is just lining a bunch of balls up in one diamond and trying to freeze them on the opposite wall, and then try to bring it out one diamond, then try to bring it out to the middle, just as a speed control drill.
Mm-hmm.
I've also spent a lot of time working on lag shots, see if I can get them exactly perfect. Use a strike ball, make sure it doesn't wobble.
Mm-hmm.
Comes right back. Theoretically kiss that, which sometimes I can, sometimes I can't.
Another good drill is I don't know if we touched on this, but actually put a bunch of balls out, and then so you shoot this one softly, and shoot this one a little bit harder. Oops.
Not quite that much
harder. A little
harder.
too hard.
Yeah, that fine control takes a touch.
Yeah, I'm not going to make this one. Ooh, did I make it past? Nope. So yeah, it's
trying to make a diagonal out of them.
Exactly. You're trying to hit as many as you can, farther, without touching the rail.
Easier on a 9-foot table.
Yes, it is. And it's easier on a slow table too. You play on a super fast table, and those shots, they just keep going and going and going and going. So, so let's talk about that pivot point for a second. So that we'll just kind of brush up. I know we've talked about it before, but so here's the thing. Dr. Dave has some really good videos as well on pivot points, so you should look those up. So there's a couple of things going on when you shoot at a ball, at the cue ball, using English. So I'm going to shoot this at that diamond down there.
Okay.
But I'm going to shoot straight at it, but I'm going to put right-hand English on it. A lot of right-hand English. You notice it actually hit right about here.
Mm-hmm.
That's to the left.
And that's from the squirt and swerve.
Exactly. Well, squirt. Swerve is the Massey effect. So squirt makes it want to go that way, and swerve makes it want to come back straight. Swerve happens because you're
friction on it spinning.
Well, right? Because you cannot shoot absolutely perfectly parallel. You're putting some amount of downward force. The higher up you go, the more downward force there is, and the more you can make a curve, like that Massey shot that I showed you earlier.
Okay, so it's the downward, let's see, so it's spinning this way and that way.
So what it's doing, when I'm spinning it, it's mainly spinning this way. But but it's also spinning like this too.
Mm-hmm.
And the result of that is kind of like a tilt, like
Mhm.
that, kind of like the Earth on its axis, right? So it's kind of spinning like this, not like a top, and not perfectly sideways, but something in between those two. So so the axis is kind of like, let's see, where is it? Like this. So this is how it's spinning,
Mm-hmm.
right? But also spinning, well, let's see. It's spinning,
Kind of spinning at a diagonal,
it's
really.
spinning, yeah, it is. It's spinning this way. You can actually see it spinning on a weird axis when you spin it and it's going down the, oops. Chocolate Hill, could you hand me that, please? So it's kind of weird because this is essentially just friction of the table and the friction of the tip causing it to spin in two different directions. So it has that tilt to it,
Uh-huh.
right? But in this case, that tilt is like this.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that tilt and move it this way a little bit, then the ball tends to curve.
Hmm.
And that's what aiming up here does. The higher up you aim, the more side spin, or the more this way it spins, then the
So
ball
more
wants
curves.
to curve.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you're like on the rail and you're hitting the ball, there's a slight downward angle. And that is enough to make the ball, especially on a softer shot, want to kind of curve in that direction,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's very, very, very little, almost negligible. So, especially if you're doing, as level as you possibly can.
Well, and that's the thing. No shot is ever exactly parallel. I think that's one of the reasons I tend to drop my elbow, trying to make the cue be level all the way through the whole shot.
Right. Understood. But also try to understand that when you strike the ball, you're only striking it for a microsecond.
Mm-hmm.
So any action before the touch and after the touch don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you strike through and drop your elbow to make the cue go straighter,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. The ball's already on its way, right? So we try not to follow through like that, just because if we do, you have a tendency to guide the cue, and it could,
Yeah, you start doing it before it hits the ball, and then you've affected
exactly.
your shot.
Exactly. Okay, so just understand that when I hit the ball left or right of center,
Mm-hmm.
the ball squirts off in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
It will swerve back, but for a hard shot, it's negligible. It's going straight. Again, Dr. Dave talks about all of this stuff. So how do we compensate for that? Well, let's say if I put one full tip of English, one full tip, so I'm going to hit it right here,
Mm-hmm.
and I shoot at that diamond, it actually
Yep. Hit about
there.
a ball length over.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compensate for that. I'm going to aim right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see where the ball goes if I aim at that spot on the opposite side. One tip over, aimed over there,
Right in the middle.
right in the middle. So here's the cool thing about this is if I do a half tip of English, it's only going to be about half that.
Proportional. Makes sense.
Right. It is going to be proportional. If I do 1.5 tips, so if I do, this is one tip, half a tip will put me here. 1.5 tips will put me here. Right? Obviously, the more English, the more squirt.
Sure.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to compensate by aiming the same amount on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm aiming here with half a tip of English, and I'm aiming here with a full tip of English, and I'm aiming here with 1.5 tips of English, that's 3 different aim lines.
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that, remember that this is one tip, this is half, this is full, and this is 1.5.
1/2 is about the most you can do, correct?
Right.
Without
So this little distance here maps to this distance here.
mm-hmm.
And if you drew lines, at some point behind the ball, those lines will converge.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that from this, let's say it's this point right here, from this point, I can draw a line from here to the center, from here to half a tip to here, from here to a full tip to here, and from here to a 1.5 tips to right there, right? They all converge on this spot.
Okay.
Make sense?
And that must be the pivot point.
That is the pivot point. Yes. So if we were to kind of draw it, this is exaggerated, but say my ball is here, my aim point on the rail is here, and I'm aiming, let's say my pivot point is right here. So if I go, I draw a line like that, I draw a line like that, I draw a line like that, assuming that they're all converging on this point right here. You notice that I'm hitting center ball, a little bit of English, more English. The more English I do, the farther over I'm aimed.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do that in the right spot, every single hit is going to compensate and make it go here, make the cue ball go here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pivot point. Every cue is different. These Predator Revo cues and the Q-Tech Synergy,
Mm-hmm.
you notice they have a very long, straight taper,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can see that it's the same diameter all the way down to right about there. Yours is very similar.
Uh-huh.
But yours, so you've got the Q-Tech Avid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is maple. Is this? Do you know
Yes, I
this?
think so.
Okay. So with maple, you're probably going to have more deflection than you are typically on these shafts. What does that mean? So if you have more deflection, that means when I shoot this shot with one tip of English to the right, it's going to go farther this way.
Mm-hmm.
Less deflection means it deflects less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for my cue, this right here, right about there, is one full tip. Let's see what it is for this one.
It's theoretically a low deflection tip.
Shaft.
Shaft, yes.
Well, let's see what it does. And it doesn't matter where you're actually holding it. So I'm going to go over one full tip. So one tip, it went right about there.
Pretty similar to where yours was.
Similar, but a little bit more.
bit less.
A little bit more.
A little more?
A little more deflection. Yeah,
okay.
Right about there. Let's try it one more time. So you go over there to that spot and watch it really closely. So I'm going to aim one tip. I'm aiming straight at that diamond.
Right there.
Okay. Yeah. So you see mine went to right about there.
Mm-hmm.
So my shaft is a little bit less deflection than yours. Yours is still pretty low, but it is that much. Here's the thing. If you think about our diagram there and think about the convergence to that point, that pivot point.
Which means my pivot point is closer than your pivot point.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Right. If you had a super high deflection shaft and one tip went way over here, what does that do to the convergence point? It's like way up here, right? But the closer we come to the center, the farther away that convergence point is.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of what happens when you shoot? If I figured out where that convergence point is, and on this one, I'm going to guess it's right about here. Maybe a little bit farther back. Yeah. So that means that no matter which way I go, if I hit it with side spin, the cue ball should go straight on the line of aim.
If you pivot it here, or you move it, so you leave your bridge in the same place.
Yes. My
But you
bridge
just
is
move-
the pivot point. Because what I'm going to do, so I'm going to say, let's just say it's right here.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pivot to do my English. So I'm going to aim dead straight. But I want to put a lot of right-hand English on it. So now I can just pivot over, put some English on it.
All right. and
Didn't
that
move
was
very much.
About that far back. So does it mean then I probably should try to set up my bridge at the pivot point?
Probably. Because that means, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me describe what happened here. So the ball went to the right.
Mm-hmm.
That means that I pivoted too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
I compensated too much. That means pull back. We want less compensation, which means the pivot point needs to, our divergence, our angle needs to be less, which means our pivot point has to be back farther.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try it a little bit farther back. Now, you'll notice where I'm at is very similar to my cue, my Q-Tech cue, and we'll look where I'm gripping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do exactly the same shot. I'm going to pivot to the left this time. And that ball hardly moved. And you'll notice I hit it hard with English and made the ball, right? Here's the cool thing about that. Now I know I can grip right here. I'll naturally find the pivot point because I'm just going to bridge it to where I'm comfortable with this position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about before. Now it doesn't matter where I hit it. Wow. Why doesn't it matter?
Because you're at the pivot point and you add English to track energy, but you lined up on the shot.
No matter what English I put on it, it's going to make the cue ball go straight on the straight line of aim, right? That is what is so powerful about the pivot point. And here's why it really works for you. I'm almost dead straight in the pocket, right? But I do know that with a lot of follow, it's actually going to go here. But I need to get on my 9-ball. Let's put it right there, right? With this angle, if I draw back, it's just going to draw back to here.
Which is not an easy shot at all.
And then if I leave it there, I got a tough cut, but it's probably going to rebound and I'm not going to have a shot. What I really need to do is I need to come around these two rails with enough spin to come down this way and get a good angle on it, right? So I need a lot of spin and I need a lot of follow and I need to hit this hard.
And you want left English on that, right? To spin it that way.
Exactly. But I need to also put follow on it so that it follows into the rail so that I can grab, right? So I'm going to use my pivot point, which is right here. I'm aimed on the 8-ball as if I'm going to hit with center ball to put it right in the middle of the pocket, which is an angled shot, but a very shallow angle. So I'm going to follow it with lots and lots of left and high.
Were you cheating? You gave yourself too easy a shot again. That's just not right.
That's the pivot point.
That's the pivot point. And the pivot point is inimical to the design of the cue as opposed to me.
Yes.
So,
it's absolutely the cue.
So then I really need to be, let's see, what's comfortable? Because it's about there, I think.
Yeah.
So now I'm holding it considerably further back than I have been previously doing. But if I got a straight cue,
but it's going to be a long bridge, right? See, now you're naturally wanting to get closer.
Yep.
So what you need to do, here's what you need to do. Instead of focusing on how close your bridge is, your hand is here. Get down on the shot so that when the tip is on the ball, your right hand is straight up and down. That means your body needs to be back a little further,
Yeah, it
right?
does, doesn't it?
You see that?
Mm-hmm. Huh.
It's a long bridge. But
since it was going to hit
I
me,
want you to use that
bridge.
bridge. I want you to use that bridge to shoot this shot.
Okay.
Let's make sure we're lined up straight. Make sure you're lined up straight. Okay.
That's not straight. That's straight.
Okay. Okay. Now, don't worry about the English. Just shoot it. Center of the pocket.
Amazing.
Yep. It's tough to get used to because most people are not used to shooting with such a long bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a low deflection shaft, it makes it more difficult because you need a longer bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people like shooting with medium deflection because then they can use a normal bridge, find out exactly where the pivot point is, and then every shot is easy. As long as you're aimed correctly, you're going to make the ball, right? So you can, now I want you to watch what happens with this stick. I'm going to put super, super long. I mean, I'm almost at the end of the stick here.
Mm-hmm.
So, pivot to the right. We'll see where the cue goes. Still went to the right.
Mm-hmm.
That means that for the most part, for an easy shot where I have a lot of room for error on a shot like this, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that for a longer shot, length of the table, that margin of error goes down and I would probably miss that shot. You'll notice that even when I pivot to the right, see if I'm way up here, right, we know this is way too short. When I pivot to the right, that's a lot of pivot, right? That's a lot of correction.
Yeah, that's not going to be right.
You know my cue ball is going to go sailing this way. So with too much compensation, right English translates to the ball going to the right.
Mm-hmm.
With too much compensation, pivot point too far, I have just a little tiny bit of compensation. The ball is going to squirt to the left and it's going to go off to the left. So you saw that my ball just went off to the right a little bit. My pivot point wasn't even long enough. Let's come way back here. Now my back arm is forward a little bit because I can't go any farther back on my cue.
Right.
But I have a really long pivot point. Let's see what happens. Still goes to the right. So this is a super, super low deflection shaft. So here's what I do. And I think I do this more naturally than anything, but if I think about it, I know my pivot point's back here, right? But I'm not going to hold the cue here.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot about halfway, and then I'm going to shift further.
To compensate for that. That makes sense.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot, which is too much, right? So I'm just going to pivot a little bit, and then the rest of the way I want to do my English, I'm going to move the cue. And even though my bridge was only about 8 inches long, I got the perfect pivot point because with right-hand English, that ball didn't move. That means the compensation was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So what I'm doing is I'm actually pivoting the cue here, right? So I could do this if I wanted to. I could do this and then just move my bridge up.
Which we do it also, but
that's essentially what I'm doing.
Yeah.
By pivoting about halfway and then
sliding
sliding my bridge over to do the rest. We call that backhand English or fronthand English. Backhand English is the compensation that we're doing on the pivot point. So in order to give myself English, I'm moving my backhand.
Oh, okay, got it.
Backhand English. Forward hand English is what you usually do, right? You
Right.
get on the ball and then you move this. A lot of people do parallel, which is both of them moving at the same time. So they'll just kind of come over like this. But that doesn't always work, right? Because of the squirt.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to compensate for that, you've got to learn the pivot point. And I know that right here, I can kind of even watch. I can even look at this point right here and just kind of pivot them both at the same time. It's unfortunately, I mean, it is an exact science, but it's very, very difficult to implement the exact science.
Well, it just takes practice. You got to do stuff over and over again.
Yes,
How are we
absolutely.
doing on time? We're
Oh,
good
good.
on time.
It's 7:15. So
Okay.
anyway, I'm not sure we wanted to go down that road, but
Well,
you asked. So
educational, but
yeah,
probably somewhat advancing my skill set at present.
true. But if you understand the pivot point and you learn to shoot with it, it's going to help you. It's going to help you shoot straighter.
So,
But it won't necessarily. It won't necessarily help you with learning what you're doing wrong.
mhm,
Because this compensates for error, right?
mhm. Yeah, because I've tended to like move everything over, and then it tends to do I'm not sure what
Right.
is the answer.
So if you're trying to do this shot, this has nothing to do with pivot point, right? This is all about delivering a straight stroke right down the center.
Mhm. Oddly enough, at Crown, at least on the table I mostly work on, sometimes we go down smoothly, come down, slow down a little bit, then it'll kind of wiggle. Wonder if the table's not perfectly flat.
That is more going to have to do with the cloth. If you see the ball wiggling,
Mhm.
right, changing directions, whatever, that's going to be just a piece of
Irregularity
dust
cloth.
or irregular cloth or worn cloth or whatever. It's just little micro changes in the cloth. If you
Mhm.
see a ball start from here and curve, then the table's not level.
No, I haven't really seen that. I've seen it more like I shoot it down, it's perfectly round, and it's coming right back up, and it slows down a little bit, and then it just kind of makes a little turn to the side and comes
Right.
back.
Yeah, that's the cloth. That's not.
I occasionally wondered if they have a table brush that I could use before I practice, because sometimes there's just stuff on the table.
I think they do. I think they've got one behind the bar you can ask them for. But
Okay.
how are we feeling?
Well, I'm sitting here being amazed by the physics. Always am. I've made progress with grip. I understand the pivot point business, which is going to change how I shoot English shots. Although, it's Dr. Dave says 80% of your shots are better done with center ball hit and speed control.
Yes.
And I'm convinced that he's right. Speed control is the real key, more than anything else.
And I believe in that video, he also mentions that you should hit not really center ball, center from left to right, but when you're shooting your shots, you should use about a half tip of follow.
Okay.
You instead of hitting center ball, you should hit like a half tip above center.
Yeah, he had a term for that. It was like normalization or something like that. So
basically what that does is it gets the cue ball rolling natural forward roll earlier. So, if you're shooting a shot, we know the angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know how the angles work. We know that if I'm shooting here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 to figure out where the cue ball is going, right? So it should go right there. It's going to go to there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I hit it center and hit it a little hard,
That stun is going to go more to the 90-degree.
right, it's not going to follow the rule.
Well, it's going to follow the 90-degree rule, not
Right.
the 30-degree rule.
Or something in between, because if I hit center ball, it's going to slide at first, and then it's
And
going to
roll a
start
little
rolling
bit.
forward.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have natural forward roll. So it's going to be somewhere in between here and 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
But if I hit it slightly above center, it will have that natural forward roll and go where I expect it to go. So yes, I agree. 80% of your shots or more should be center ball and learn control. When you're learning control and learning how to, send the ball around the table, learn your sliding shots and your natural forward roll shots with no English.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Figure out how to make that ball go where you want it to go without having to resort to English. English, believe it or not, English is actually used more to help the cue ball kind of go around the table better. If you have reverse English, it kind of slows the ball up, and it's not a predictable path, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you use running English, it just kind of follows the same path. It follows a very predictable path, one that you're used to seeing.
Right English.
Running English.
Running English means when the ball hits, it's turning this way, so it tends to make it run.
In that case, it's right-hand English.
Yes, but that's running English if it's going this way.
Right.
And we're going this way, then the running English is that way.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So this way, it's left-hand English.
So are there drills I should do about bouncing the cue ball around to kind of figure out how to use? Because I really don't. I don't ever do the situation where I hit 4 cushions and come back to this spot. I don't know how to do that. Should I just, from time to time, just start whacking it around and watching where it goes, figuring out how hard you have to hit it to make that happen? Or is that too soon to be doing that sort of
Probably
stuff?
a little too soon for that, but try to understand the path that the cue ball wants to make. One of them is the 222 that I've told you about. So if you go through the center of the table here,
Mm-hmm.
at the second diamond on the long rail, with running English, it'll come right back through the center.
Running English, second diamond, back to the center. 1, 2, 3.
So
back.
if you go from the center of the table and aim straight at that diamond with a little bit of running English, should hit that ball. It'll come right back through the center. Now, the reason that's a good rule of thumb, the center of the table is prime real estate. It's a great place to be. But it also helps you with things like this, right? So I know that center of the table, let's say these balls are at the center of the table, and I want to pass them, right? I need to get down to the other end here. But the path of my ball is going to be going into this rail at a 45-degree angle at, close to this one here. So I want to alter the path a little bit so that I understand that if I go to the 2, it goes to the 2, it goes to the 2, it goes to the middle of the table. And then if I lengthen it a little bit, it's going to lengthen it on this side and pass that ball, right? So if I go about a half diamond up with running English, and this is about 1 ball. So if I do the same thing and go a full diamond, it's about another ball past the center. So little things like that are good to know, good to understand. Understanding exactly, Dr. Dave does have some videos on that. Like if you have a couple of balls in the middle of the table, like so, let's say you're shooting that ball. And you want to know, are you going to miss these balls? Well, if I shoot this ball in here with some running English, I'm going to go right at this second diamond, or very close to it. I should go right through the middle of the table. Should miss both of those balls. So we'll try that. So what that one did is it actually went up here a little bit, which lengthened it. Right? So you understand those concepts, you'll start to understand. One of the things we talked about when learning cue ball control is the very first thing is understanding where the cue ball wants to go. Right? So you should know other rules of thumb. You should know that when you shoot the ball from this corner, which is 4 diamonds away from this corner, and I shoot it at the second diamond, the cue ball should come right to this pocket. And that's a simple, we've talked about that. That's kick shots and bank shots 101 right there. So, there are some other rules of thumb that I do like to teach. They're a little bit more advanced, like what happens on a rebound when there's a certain amount of English applied, that sort of thing. Like, for example, if I aim straight at that diamond with half a tip of English, in other words, the right edge of my cue is at the center of the cue ball. All right, so that's a half tip of English. It comes over just about 2 diamonds. And that's pretty consistent.
So that was one of those things that I just figured out is how you tell how much a tip it is. So center, if the edge is there, that's a half tip.
1 full tip means, so if I have my, so this is center ball.
Right.
1 tip of English is like that. Half a tip of English is like that.
Right. So the edge of the cue
The edge of the cue is right at the center. So you can judge a full tip by putting your cue right up to the ball, and then see where the left edge is, and then put my right edge at that spot. Now I'm a full tip of English, and it's going to go over. Now, this is really a function of how thick your tip is.
Yeah.
Right? With a thicker tip, you're putting a lot more English on the ball, right? So for me, my rule of thumb seems to be half a tip brings me just over half a diamond and a half for the length of the table, and a full takes me.
Would that also apply to a longer table, or is that just with this table?
No, it's all about proportion, not size.
Well, true.
Right.
The other one's the diamond's that much further apart.
Now, what matters is, believe it or not where you're hitting there. What matters is where you're aimed at on this end. So if I aim from here at that diamond, I'm actually aimed to ricochet back to here, right? So my left-hand English puts it in 1 full tip puts it in this pocket 3 diamonds away, right? So what if my ball was here? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim it as though I'm trying to hit this diamond right here. So I'm probably going to aim right about there, right? Which should bring it to here. So aim there. Put a full tip of English on it.
Back in the pocket.
Yep. So that's kind of advanced stuff. Probably not something that you need to learn
Need to
right
be
now.
practiced at this point for sure.
I would stick to doing the progressive practice, but I would also just try to get a feel. Put a ball on the one diamond spot.
Mhm.
Put the cue ball in the center of the table. And then get a feel for where the ball wants to go. So first thing you do, center ball hit, slightly above center. This is about a half ball hit into the pocket. Where does the cue want to go? See, it came over here, hit the rail right there, right? Center of the table, half ball hit.
Pretty much
Same
the
spot on the
place.
rail,
Mhm.
right? So you should So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the clock system, right? We're gonna put, so that's noon. 3 o'clock would be pure right hand English. We're gonna go halfway between that, so it's gonna be 1:30. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go follow and right.
That brought you to the opposite side.
Yep. Let's see if we can be consistent with that, right? So I'm going to do exactly the same shot.
So you're lining up straight.
Center, straight, half ball hit. And I go up a tip and right a tip.
Pretty consistent.
So that consistently comes about to here. I think the first one I put a little bit too much right and not enough follow on it. Make sure that's right on the diamond. So we can put, now I do 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock is what brings me to there.
So by 3 o'clock, it's no follow, just right English.
Right. It's gonna get some roll, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's 'cause it's a long
your
shot.
3 o'clock is going to be a little more right-hand English than 1:30 because you're farther out, right? So now I do 4:30, which is a little bit of draw and to the right.
Brings it up shorter.
Yep. So you just get kind of an idea of what those shots will do, and you just start building up a catalog of
mental picture of it all.
But yeah, you should definitely try to understand the path of the ball. Another one is from this corner pocket. So if I shoot from this corner pocket directly at the second diamond with a little bit of running English, so that came up a little bit, went a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim about here now, from the center pocket, a little short of the second diamond. And you should be able to hit that consistently on the table that you're on. Now, a crown, the gold crowns at Crown Billiards are going to be up here. You got to shoot way up here in order to get it to go into the pocket. It's very strange.
Does that just have to do with the cushions?
Yeah, it's the cushions, the cloth. It's a lot of different things. So I should be able to repeat that shot just now. Close.
Yep.
So that'll give you an idea just how the table plays.
Mm-hmm.
Does it play long? Does it play short? You know,
Well, I'm sure every table is different, and I'm sure there's variation from brand to brand. I wonder if all the tables at Crown kind of play the same, or if each one's a
they're
little
very
different.
similar. They're all very similar. Excuse me. Yeah. Beyond that, I would probably at some point, I would focus right now on your stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Your stroke and your vision center. Get that down. But when you start playing games, you'll need to understand pattern play and where the cue ball's going and breaking up clusters, and there's just a lot of strategy to pool to 8-ball especially. But yeah, I would definitely focus on the fundamentals. You're having to make some adjustments right now, so I would focus on that.
Grip for sure.
Make sure that grip is a solid grip. Make sure that you're using the same bridge 80% of the time.
Yeah, just find that comfortable spot, which that's pretty vertical. That seems like that's about right. It's a little longer than I have been using, which is more like that, but that seems like a good natural position to be in. You know, Dr. Dave's got his chin on top of the thing.
Yeah.
That's not really comfortable for
Here's
me.
the thing. When you're trying to find your comfortable spot, the reason that's not comfortable is because you're trying to use the same bridge, the same distance between your hands. Now what we're doing is we're changing our body's position, right? Mm-hmm. Now your body needs to adjust to that. So if I'm shooting like this, notice how close my hands are together.
Uh-huh.
Trying to come down to something like this, now my elbow is bent a lot, right? And this is not comfortable. So the closer I get down to the ball, the farther apart my hands are going to be.
Yeah, that makes sense anatomically.
So if I were to force myself to get on way down here like this, to me, this is what's comfortable. And my legs are a little bit farther apart. I don't get down much farther than this. I don't know how people can get their chin on them. I can't get that low.
Well, I watched Dr. Dave. He bends really 90 degrees at the waist, and
Yeah.
My waist doesn't really do that.
Yeah. And that's really tough on the back too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like my back doesn't want my waist to do that.
Right. And when you're bent way over like that, then you're having to really pull your head up.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's not uncomfortable for me, but my
In
legs
that-
are further apart.
In that case, what happens is I can do this,
Mhm.
but now I'm looking through the rim of my glasses.
Right.
Now is when I would need those glasses that are way up there. And that's probably why I don't get down that far, because I need to be able to see through my glasses. So this is where I'm comfortable here, not like this. You should try to get as low as you can,
See,
but be comfortable.
I can get to this height and be comfortable, but actually I need to be a little bit further. My arm's further apart. I have to grip further back to get anywhere near that pivot point. That's not a bad spot to be in.
That's not bad, but your pivot point's about 3 inches back from that.
Further back than that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like here.
If your grip is on the back, at the back of your,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Now adjust everything else so that your back arm is straight up and down with that position.
Let's see.
So you're going to be farther away from the, there you go.
Yep.
Your whole body's going to have to shift backwards a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That is your pivot point.
Boink. That had a good sound.
All right, let's play a couple games just to kind of loosen up and work on your stroke mechanics. You've been using your template?
I surely have. In my check mark pattern, one thing that I find entertaining is if I don't use that, like I forgot it today when I went into play and practice, I can't get a tight rack. I simply cannot get them to stay in the right place.
Yeah, it is tough. There's also kind of a problem with the crown balls in that those sets have been mixed and matched so much that they don't have a perfect.
Yeah, not consistent sizes, I
Right.
guess, within. And it doesn't take much, a few thousandths, and things are not going to fit right.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why you really need a full set that's been manufactured together. You know, you can go ahead and break. There you go.
Oh, thank you. This is something else that I miscue so much doing this, and I'm sure that I'm just pushing too hard, dropping my shoulder and going whack like that.
Well,
Someone once told me accuracy is more important than force.
yes, they did.
All right, straight.
And try using a longer bridge so you have kind of that pivot point.
Mm-hmm.
And just aim for the center of the ball. There you go. Look at that. Off and running.
All right. So looking at the table,
Mm-hmm.
these are actually pretty well scattered. I can take the 6 ball down there. I can take the 14 in this corner. But which would leave me in a better spot? If I got the 6 ball and put a little stun on it and stayed there, then I'd have a shot on the 4 and possibly the 3. If I hit that one in, came back, I don't really have a good shot then.
And remember when we talked about this, you want to look at your potential problems. Assuming that you do take solids, where are your problem balls? Do you have any?
Well, actually, what's that, the 4 ball, the blue one? 2 ball is a little blocked up there, but that's really about it. There
True.
were problems with the stripes, those 2 there and that one over there.
But remember, you don't want me to come to the table. So a problem is a problem. It doesn't matter if that's just about it. That may be the only problem, but you have to figure out how to navigate it.
But it also makes a good key ball for the 8 ball.
Sure, if you can figure out a pocket for it.
If I shot it from here, I could get it in that side pocket and bring myself over and line up for the 8, which would be a challenge to get around the 13. I'd want to bring it back here. Anyway, I still think the solids are my best choice.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
would you be doing?
Personally, I would probably take stripes.
Mm-hmm.
They would be a little bit more difficult because the 10 ball doesn't go in that pocket. So I have to approach it from this side. The 13 allows me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
These 2 balls are going to be a problem, but if I can get on the right side of the 10, I can break them up and still have the 11 to help to shoot in that pocket. So I'd probably take the stripes myself.
So
Just a little bit of
would you
control that you
take-
need.
take the 14 first and then come off of that to put yourself in position to hit down table. I think where down table do I want to be? I want to be here, but I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, it's tough. This is a tough table.
All right. Well, we'll see if I can put a 6 ball down there.
I wouldn't worry about stun or anything like that. Just
get the ball in.
center ball, center, and just focus on aiming this into the pocket. It's best if you probably brush the rail a little bit so that you don't hit that 13 ball.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to, instead of aiming here, you want to aim more like right here.
Mm-hmm. See, that is there.
Oof.
Not quite. So much for my strategy.
No, I can take solids. Maybe. So I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm actually going to try and bump the 2 ball.
Gonna what?
I didn't plan that out real well because I didn't look to see that the 6 could make it past, and it can't. So I'm actually going to just try to make the 2. In fact, I think I'll bank the 2. A little higher risk, but a little bit better reward. And I know you're still going to have trouble with those 2, so let's give it a shot. All right, well, now that 2 is not going to be easy.
All right, so I am now Stripus.
Yes, you are.
Got all those balls confusing each other.
I actually kind of like the 9-15 combination.
I was thinking about that. What I would have to do is that needs to go there, so that needs to go there.
Here's what you do when you're trying to figure out a combo like that, especially
Uh-huh.
a tough combo. Pretend the 9 ball is a cue ball.
Okay.
And just figure out exactly where you have to shoot in order to make that 9 ball, make that 15 ball with the 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then wherever you're aimed, pick a spot on the rail. See that?
Mm-hmm.
That is my new pocket. I'm going to shoot the cue ball into the 9, trying to make the 9 right here.
Huh. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
Figure out your 9 ball. So
15.
figure out your aim from the 9 to the 15, as if the 9 was the cue ball.
Yep. I was just looking at how I'd line that stuff off. So I'd want it right like that.
Okay. And where on the rail, where on the diamonds does that hit?
Right there.
Okay. So now, forget about the 15. Aim the 9, like shoot the 9 to hit the 9 right there.
Okay, and that's going to be near.
I know it'll feel weird because you'll be like, I feel like I'm cutting it too much or something, but just trust it.
Like that.
Just like that.
If I'd hit a little softer, I'd be in better shape right now.
Yes. Yeah. Those are all the things that you have to consider. It's a lot of different balls in the air all at the same time.
My best shots, I think, the 11.
I agree.
That's a real cut right
It's a
there.
cut, but you see where the contact point is and just marry the 2 contact points and put it in. Don't have to shoot this hard, just nice and easy. Oof. Okay, let's see what I can do.
You can sneak the 6 in.
Yeah. Won't always want to shoot that one first because something I might want to consider is if I shoot the 1, can I get on the 2 and or the 4? Or can I knock that 2 out of the way? I might be able to do that and give it a path. Hitting the 6 in doesn't really give me any advantage, you know what I mean?
Doesn't bring you anything good to shoot at.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get around that 12, tap the 2. If I tap on hot above it, I'll still have the 6 to shoot at, and if I hit it fuller, I'll have the 3 to shoot at. So we'll see what happens here. Or I could have a shot on the 4.
Yeah, or you could have them both go in.
That 3 ball is probably going to be my key ball, so I need to figure out a way to get on the 3 ball from the 6. Which I can probably do. If I make the 2, give myself a little bit of an angle, I can come back. So I think that's what I'm going to shoot for. First shot. Get this one in.
I'm curious why you
wanted that to
hit
stop
that
over
with
here.
a stun shot or a stop shot, so you'd be right there.
Yeah,
right
I
too.
did not intend to come all the way up here. I may have to use the 6 as my key, which is actually a pretty good key ball. So I just need to avoid the 9 and 10. I think I can do that, but it's going to be a very delicate shot. Can't shoot it too hard, but I need to shoot it hard enough to not have too much forward, or because my 30-degree angle is going to put me right into the 9. I need it to come this way. So I'm going to stun it just a little bit.
Which should increase that angle.
Just a bit. Oh, don't be straight. Okay. I definitely need some chalk for this. So I have 2 choices here. I have enough of an angle, I think, with some left-hand English. I can draw it back here and then bring the cue ball over here. I want a straight-in shot on the 6.
Mm-hmm.
If I have too much of an angle, I can still come out here and make the 8 in the side. So that's not too much of a danger. The other thing is I'm aimed right here through the 3 ball. 3 times that angle puts me here. And with some right-hand English, I can thread the needle and come up here for the 6. But I risk hitting one of those 2 and not having a shot. Or hitting it too hard and coming up here and not having a shot. So I think I'm going to use the draw.
Yeah, the problem is all those strike balls are in your way.
Yes. You should have gotten rid of them for me. Oh, need a little more oomph, but this might be doable. Nice thing is that 11 ball makes the pocket really big.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to focus on a stop shot. 6 in the corner. BCA rules. Obvious shots don't need to be called. But if there's any danger of the ball going off another ball, or you're shooting a bank shot, even if the bank is obvious, call your shot. So I call the 6 in the corner because it might hit the 11, and we don't want any ambiguity. Oof, a little too much draw there.
There you have it.
All right, you can break this one too.
Got 2 of these by accident.
Yep, that's all right. I don't know if you're aware, but I always have water here.
Oh, thank you. Was not aware, but I'm okay.
Got to stay hydrated. So, how do you feel about your game?
About my game in what sense do you mean?
Well, just your overall.
Well, I don't know. Things are coming along. They're coming slowly. I think I'm one of those people who has better strategy ideas than I do ability to execute them. But I'm probably not alone in that particular situation. Ah. see, that was this one. Yes.
Yep. You'll notice that little donut there.
Uh-huh.
That's where I like to break from, personally.
Hmm.
Because I know that if I break from there and I'm holding the stick right here and I use a rail bridge, that's my pivot point for my brake stick. And I can get a good solid break every single time. It's not
I've
going to be
always
the
put
same
on
for
the line.
everybody, but
It kind of makes sense. A rail bridge is a little more steady.
mm-hmm. Nicely done. All right.
Will this come up? Probably not quite
Now
yet.
we'll leave it right now.
All right, so there are two solids in, but that doesn't matter.
Talk
Very
about
good.
solids. What is solids?
I'm sorry?
Talk about solids.
Okay, looking at the solids, that would make not a bad cue ball. That one's kind of, that one's not hard to get to. Might be able to come around to the 3 and get the 4.
So you should always try and think of what you can do. There's no wrong, right or wrong answers as far as what kind of things you can do. There's some neat stuff you can do. If you were stuck with solids,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do with this?
Well, I can sink the 1, but it'd be nice to break the 3 loose, but I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Well,
Although one could maybe hit the, well, I can't hit the 3 ball because of where the 8 ball is. But if you hit the 3 ball, it would bounce the 9 off. I don't know what to do to the 1. You might be able to get it to go in.
let's say this isn't your first shot. Let's say that if you had ball in hand, how would you take care of this?
If I had ball in hand, I would probably stun that and then hit that one down that way, or stun that one, take that
The
one.
9's
come back
preventing it from going there. It could go up that way, and the 4 ball gives you access to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not too bad. Your 6 ball is kind of blocked.
Mm-hmm.
It will go in this pocket. If you shoot it in the gap here to the left side of the 12 ball, the 6 ball will go in that corner.
Yep. Assuming
So
you're
really,
ball
the
in
only
hand.
problem you have is the 3. There's a couple of things you can do about that. You can either have the cue ball here somewhere and shoot the 3 up in the corner after the 1's gone,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're able to, you could hit the 1 and graze the 3. Right? If you shot the 1 into the 3 like this,
Oh, it popped the 3 ball
it would
out.
pop the 3 ball out. 1 would go in the pocket, and now your 3 ball is free. So
Mhm.
those are possibilities. But stripes look much better. So your only true quote unquote trouble balls are these.
Well, I don't think that would be too tough a shot to make. You just,
Remember the first.
right, that one goes there, and
Yep.
that's just almost a straight shot on that, honestly.
Almost, but
Teeny bit
get on the
that way.
15 as if you're trying to put the 11 in the center of the pocket.
Right, and that would be right like that.
Now, where's the 15 being aimed?
It is being aimed right there.
Now, if it were being aimed here, then that would be a straight-in shot,
Right,
but it's not.
it's not.
The 15 is here. You need to shoot the 15 as if you're trying to hit it here.
Right. So that means I need to hit this just a little bit to the right, about there.
Don't even think about that part. Just think 15 here. Ignore the 11.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. 15 there.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the 15 going to do?
It's going to come down this way a little ways.
It's almost straight, so it's probably gonna die, but it's probably gonna drift down this way just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The cue ball, in order to make the 15 here, is not go. If you were to follow it, it would probably come over to here, right? If you draw it back, then it kind of draws back a little bit this way, which is great because you got that ball, you got this ball.
Yep. So a little draw sounds like the right answer.
I would shoot it hard enough so that the 15 can kind of clear this area and come down here a little further, because the 13 and the 12 will allow you to deal with it. So don't just hit it soft. Give it a nice little pop. There you go. Now the only ball you really have to worry about is the 9, and if you get on it just right, that'll go right in there. So
I should start with a 13, I think. That should give me set up on the 15.
Well, remember that angle. What that angle is going to do, though, you have a kind of a steep angle on the 13. It's not too shallow, so the cue ball is going to hit the rail and it's going to probably go straight towards the 15, which is okay. If you bump the 15, you can shoot the 12 first, then shoot the 15. You make any kind of a mistake, you'll most likely have a shot on the 14 at some point. So that's your safety valve right here. So don't shoot it now. Shoot the 13. Don't use any English. And you should nudge that 15 ball. Okay.
I hit that just a little bit too hard, I think.
That's all right. And you cut it. You hit it. You kind of hit the pocket over here. So that was fine. I mean,
a little bit too much cut.
It's okay.
All right. So if I were trying to shoot the 15 ball, I would want to be just a teeny bit there. So I want to cut that just a little bit. So this is 12 ball, corner pocket.
Okay. Ooh, both. Now you're getting fancy.
Okay. Don't have a shot on the 9 ball. I have to go.
You don't?
Safe.
Are you sure?
Well, let's think about this. Well, maybe I could just tip that in. If I did that, it would come off there. The cue would come back to about here, which might be a good shot on the 10 ball. So that's your thinking? Go after the 9 ball?
Go after the 9 ball, just high, and with enough speed, you kind of come back to this end of the table. Nice. Now it just, you don't want to do this perfectly straight. You want to hit this slightly on the right-hand side. So the cue ball goes into the rail, and with enough speed to just kind of go into the rail and come back out a little bit.
So I want to bring it out so I can shoot the 10 ball that way as opposed to leaving here. Yeah, that's a much better shot.
Yeah.
No question. Thank you. Have to bring it back out.
Don't need any English. No, don't cut it too much. Instead of hitting it straight, you want to hit just a slight angle. Good.
Need it a little bit more.
You're okay.
To bring it out.
So now you're going to have to kind of take your medicine here, because the 8 ball, the only place it can really go is here. You really can't get to here, but you can get up to here. If you shoot the 10 ball, okay, with a stun shot, enough to kind of come over to the rail and maybe pop back out a little bit. Your goal is to leave it right about there.
You know, I read the league rules. Coaching's not allowed. Sure be handy if I.
Coaching is allowed when you're paying for a session. So. Nice. Well,
too hard.
Now you got yourself a tough shot.
Yes, I do, but not an impossible shot.
Not impossible. It's doable. It's a very, very thin cut.
Very thin cut.
Let's see you do it. Shave some hair off that ball. I never took this screen off, but at least you'll get the audio. Oof.
Nope.
All right.
Not the shot I needed.
Here we go.
Here I am, one shot away from running a table for the first time in my life.
That was great. Did really well.
So help me understand why you took that shot instead of the 6 ball on the side.
Because the 6 ball is my cue ball for the 8.
Okay. And where are you aiming? I know the 6 is going down in the corner pocket, but where do you want the cue to end up?
I want to minimize its lateral motion here. So
you're basically going to stun it, is that right?
Yeah. I'm going to stun it and just barely make the 6.
And there you have it. Well, at least I got 7 points on this one.
Yeah, that was a great run. That was fantastic. And you notice your aim is a lot better there. Yeah, it's improving. Yeah, I would definitely focus on your right eye aiming. And probably I would, even though the pivot point is probably an advanced topic, I think you understand it well enough to understand why. So I would try to focus on using that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll work on that one.
Okay.
I wish we had the video to go with it. Oh well, I have a pile of money for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Usual.
Yes.
It must be fun getting paid for something you really like to do anyway.
Yes, yes, it is.
That's how I feel about my practice.